Anyway, like I was saying, his brother started to notice that I was showing and asked if I was pregnant. And I was laying on his bed at the time, and he said, no, she's not. And he was like, well, can I talk to you for a second? And I heard him in the hallway saying, I can tell she's got a little bump going on under that shirt. Like, are you sure she's not pregnant? Like, what's going on? And he was like, no, don't worry about it. I got it. And he came back in the room, and he asked me if I wanted to wrestle. And I just kind of looked at him and said, are you serious? And he said, yes. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And he picked me up off the bed and slammed me into the ground and jumped on me. And his knees went right into my stomach. And I cried and made his brother bring me to my friend's house. And as soon as I got there, I was crying, and I ran into the bathroom, and there was like black tar coming out, and I couldn't sit down. It hurt so bad, and I was a mess. And I ended up telling my school doctor that I thought I was pregnant, and I think I had a miscarriage, but I was kind of hoping it was just my period coming late, because I didn't want to believe that that was what happened. And she did tell me I had a minor miscarriage, but I never told an adult what had happened to me, which, I think everyone that goes through something like that, it's important to tell somebody that it's happening. I had told my sister, but no one wanted to believe me that it happened, and my friend was the only one that did. And like I said, I had a really hard childhood, so it makes it harder to feel like you can talk to people. So about 6 months had gone by since that happened, and I was working at a pizza place in my town, and I worked 70 hours a week, and I got sexually harassed at this job, and I dealt with just terrible people to work with, but I needed to have a job to live at my mom's house, so I was working. Even though I was a senior in high school, I had to work as much as I was. And I started dating somebody else, and he wasn't a bad guy at all. He was a little wishy-washy, but most teenage boys are. He was, decent compared to what I had just been with. And I started having mental breakdowns to where after we would make love, if he didn't cuddle with me, I would cry. I would end up screaming at him, and I would see that guy that made me have the miscarriage. I'd see his face on his face, and I would scream at him, and then I'd roll off the bed and be in the fetal position crying uncontrollably, and I would just shake. And then I started going to work, and I'd hear people calling my name, and no one would be calling my name, and I just kind of snapped. And my mom told me I would come home, and I wouldn't make any sense when talking to her, and I would just walk away and go in my room, and I didn't even remember having these conversations. And so I went into therapy, and they diagnosed me with bipolar, and I remember telling them it didn't make any sense, that it didn't seem right, that I knew when I was upset about something, and yes, I was having uncontrollable emotions, but it didn't seem like it was that. And I stayed on this medication for about a year, and I hated it, and I eventually got off of it, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in between that I don't really want to get into at this moment. But some of the signs of having PTSD and some of the symptoms that we go through is that we'll have glimpses of our past, and we'll be in and out, and it's hard for us to explain because a lot of times everyone has different triggers. So for me, loud noises is a big trigger for me. If someone is talking too loud, it will trigger me off. If there's a big crash and loud noise, I'll get triggered off, and I'll get goosebumps down my arms, and I'll start shaking, and my body will just start shaking and twitch. And you'll see it just in my eyes. I'll get really kind of focused but unfocused at the same time, and I'll start rubbing my temples because I'm trying to stay in reality, but I feel myself losing it, and then I'll get really, really angry, and I just need silence, and I need people to leave me alone and don't talk to me. And if you try to touch me, I'll shake and pull away, you can't touch me, because my head is telling me I'm in danger and something's about to happen, and you need to be on alert and protect yourself. And most of the time I'm not, but my mind tells me that I am. And what's hard is most of the time everybody has different triggers. There are different things. And Another one of my things is I cry all the time. I am very sensitive. Hearing certain words will just make me cry. It's like a snap of the hat. I will just cry if certain words are said. And what's hard is a lot of people with this mental disorders, we don't know all our triggers. So we struggle with it daily, trying to warn people it's about to come, not knowing it's about to come ourselves, and being asked what's wrong, and we can't explain to you what is wrong, what is exactly going on. And that's really hard for us. So, like, for example, another thing that I went through growing up was my mom was very abusive to my dog. I had a little Chihuahua. His name was Bullet, and I loved him very much. And he was with me from when I was around 9 years old. And he used to protect me from her ex, who also was very physically violent and sexually violent. And he knew how it affected me. So he didn't like men around me. Once my mom's ex left, he didn't want men around me. He didn't trust them. And he would protect me. And I'd have to tell him, like, it's okay. And he'd watch from afar, but he'd back off. And my mom never liked him. One, I think just because he was my dog, she didn't like him. And then he never really got the point of not pooping and peeing on rugs. And that always got her mad too. And she used to like kick him and punch him across the room, which I know some people think is funny, but it's not. It's terrible to see. He got really sick when I turned 15. And he was only about 8 years old. And he got really sick. And his back leg stopped working. And he eventually couldn't even roll over on his own anymore. And I used to have to hold him outside to pee. And it really affected me because he was like my baby. He was all I had in my household that I felt connected to. And I remember asking my mom to take him to the vet, and she kept saying, he's going to get better, he's going to get better. And I kept saying, no, he's not. Like, I can tell he's not. Like, please get him help. And I went to driver's ed that year. And my mom picked me up one day and took me shopping. And I thought it was kind of weird that she was taking me shopping because she didn't do that. And she told me she made a vet appointment for him on the following Wednesday, and she was sorry it took so long. And I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I was really happy. And I went home, and my stepdad was digging a hole outside in the soil. And I said, what are you digging a hole for? And he said he was putting a new birdhouse up. And I was like, oh, okay. And I walked in the house, and my dog was literally laying on his pillow in the dining room, dead, with his mouth open, and there was a paper towel just draped over him. And it really affected me. I bawled my eyes out. I left. I didn't wait. I wasn't there when he got buried. I couldn't wait. I went to my friend's house and I cried for hours on hours. It's still something that really affects me. I can still picture it, vision it. I can still go back to that moment. I can still go back to all the times that I saw him get hurt, all the times that I wanted to protect him and didn't. And it makes me feel like I should have done more even though I couldn't. And so now as an adult, if I see a dog get, hit or yelled at the wrong way, even just if it's in regular discipline, I'll go back to those moments in my life and I'll overreact, like thinking it's completely wrong. You can't discipline your animal. You can't spank them. You can't, do the things you're supposed to do to train an animal, and I'll freak out. And inside, I'll freak out more than outside, and a lot of times. And what's hard is you end up beating yourself up inside. You really are your own worst enemy because you're struggling so hard most of the time to stay in reality that when you're fighting these memories and you're fighting the other side of yourself to not go back, you end up doing a lot of damage inside because it's hard to explain, but it's like fist fighting yourself in your mind because your mind's telling you need to be somewhere else and your soul's telling you no, you need to be here and you need to just let go of the past. But it's almost impossible to let go of the past. Your mind isn't letting you let go of the past. And so it's a constant daily struggle to where you're trying to put that smile on, and most of the time inside you're somewhere completely different. And a lot of times we're not comprehending what's going on in our regular lives. We can be driving and end up making it home and we don't remember getting home. You can be having a conversation with us and it can be an hour later. We don't remember anything that you just talked about. And it's because things are so complicated inside our minds that certain words can make us shut off completely. And certain words can make us go somewhere else completely. And sometimes we can just get very defensive very quickly. and you won't even know you said anything wrong. But I hope this was helpful. I kind of wanted to shed a little light on it. I also, like I said, have been feeling a little wishy-washy today or this evening as well, and I thought it'd be good to kind of talk about. But, you know, I want everyone to remember that we all go through really hard things in life. I have a bookload of stories, and I know that things get hard. They're not easy, but we need to remember to have each other's backs. Don't judge others for what they're going through or what they have been through. And it's important to try to let go of the past. And like I said, it's almost impossible to do sometimes. But every once in a while, look at yourself in the mirror and remember how great of a person you are. No matter what you're going through, you are a good person, and you're trying, and you're getting up every day, and you're motivating yourself. You're working, you're taking care of your animals, your kids, you're cleaning your house, you're making your bed, you're reading a new book. You know, anything you're doing is progress. And God is there with you, and He's proud of you, and He's fighting with you. All you have to do is ask Him for help. Remember to keep asking for help. You know, you're struggling, cry to God about it. You know, release those emotions, because the more you bottle them up inside, the harder they are to release, because you're going to feel like you have to be tough all the time, even though you don't. So I hope everybody has a good night, and thank you for watching.